And welcome to Whiskey Politics. Dave Sussman, your host and purveyor here at Whiskey Politics. Please find me at davesussman.com, theindependent.io, the Range Broadcasting Network. Of course, please find us at YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, comment, and like our videos. And you can also find us on all of your favorite podcast applications, including Apple Podcasts. Please give us a 5-star rating and a comment. It helps the algorithms find us. Other podcast applications include Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and all of the rest, including Ricochet Audio Network. We're delighted today to have a wonderful twofer for you. First, we will be bringing in Senator Marsha Blackburn, who is fresh off night 3 of the Republican National Convention. And then we will have the timestamp below for Michael Loftus, who is the editor-in-chief at the Loftus Party. He is a frequent guest at Fox News and the Gutfeld Show, and a stand-up comedian to boot. I will be asking Michael about comedy in the age of Trump, why the Democrats are trying to stop a Trump-Biden debate, and we will get Michael's hilarious take on Republicans for Biden, and if that is even a real thing. But first, Senator Marsha Blackburn, who is fresh off her poignant and heartfelt speech at the Republican National Convention, who is also the author of her latest book, The Mind of a Conservative Woman, Seeking the Best for Family and Country, will join us here in just a moment, while I will ask her about the media's collective negative response to the Republican National Convention. And I'll have some hard-hitting questions for Senator Blackburn regarding the fact that the Democrats tried to sabotage both the election of and the subsequent presidency of President Donald Trump with their whole false Russian collusion narrative, and that there is proof that one of her Senate colleagues coordinated the release of the now debunked FISA application. What will Senate Republicans do about it? It started the whole chapter. We will also ask the senator about another one of her colleagues, Senator Kamala Harris, the vice presidential pick. Yeah, she's probably the presidential pick at this point for the Democrats. But first, let's recap a short part of Senator Blackburn's speech at the Republican National Convention and bring her on.
As Democrats try, they can't cancel our heroes. They can't contest their bravery, and they can't dismiss the powerful sense of service that lives deep in their souls. So, they try to defund them, our military, our police, even ICE, to take away their tools to keep us safe. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their radical allies try to destroy these heroes because if there are no heroes to inspire us, government can control us. They close our churches, but keep the liquor stores and abortion clinics open. They say we can't gather in community groups, but encourage protest, riots, and looting in the streets. If the Democrats had their way, they would keep you locked in your house until you become dependent on the government for everything. That sounds a lot like communist China to me. Maybe that's why Joe Biden is so soft on them. Why Nancy Pelosi says that China would prefer Joe Biden. Yep, I bet they would. But President Trump has stood up for our heroes every day. He stood by our law enforcement, our military, and the freedoms we hold dear. He's made good on his promise to put America first. And I hope you will stand with me as we send him back for 4 more years with a clear message to the Democrats. You will never cancel our heroes.
Senator Marsha Blackburn from the great state of Tennessee, and fresh from night 3, speaking at the Republican National Convention, and author of her latest book, The Mind of a Conservative Woman, Seeking the Best for Family and Country, where Newt Gingrich says in his foreword for the senator's book, Marsha Blackburn is a woman who is changing history. The book will be released on September the 1st and can be found everywhere books are sold. Senator Blackburn, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Great job last night at the RNC. Incredible speech, and I want to talk about that here in just a moment. But you represented Tennessee's 7th District in the United States Congress for 16 years before becoming a senator, and you served as a state senator for 4 years. So you understand the political process better than most. I want to discuss with you, however, what you discuss in the first chapter of your book, the disconnect between today's mainstream media and our politics, which you write about in a chapter called The Stepford Wives of Liberalism. And you say, I'm always amused when a cable news outlet runs a slate of 12 liberal talking heads saying the same things in the same phrases and using the same inflections. We talk about this all the time here, and remark how the media's immediate reaction, especially this week to the RNC, was dark and dystopian. There are many mashups of the media saying the exact same thing. Do we have a free and fair press today? And if not, who is controlling the narrative?
I have to tell you, when you listen to the talking points that they put out on a daily basis, and, you know, the Democrats and those on the left are such institutionalists that they stick with them word for word. And it is so amazing to me. I sometimes just chuckle because you will hear them use the exact same inflections. So you know that they have been on a call and they have been talked through how to use these words and terms. And you will see it in their elected representatives and also in the mainstream media, which is incredibly cozy with the Democrat National Committee and with Speaker Pelosi and with Leader Schumer. So we know that they kind of stick with that. Sometimes, you know, with women, you will see them all march to the House floor and they will line up and they will say the same thing time after time after time. Everybody reading the exact same sentence. What I don't think they realize is that this really hurts their cause because people don't think in monolithic groups. Individuals will take information in and then they decide what they think about that. And most people will say, I'm not party affiliated, not Democrat, not Republican. I'm an independent. I look at the issues or I look at the candidate. And that is why people go for these unaffiliated that end up making a determination of how elections end up going, who wins and who loses. So I find it very interesting that one of the ways the Democrats think is a good way to get their message out is to use the exact same talking point and repeat it over and over and over.
Yeah, it's a little pathetic, actually. And a lot of us who follow what's going on in politics see it for what it is. But I think that, you know, it's the Goebbelsization, if you want to use that as a verb, and, you know, basically, if you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes truth. Is that their intention with all this?
I think they feel like if someone hears something a certain number of times, you know, I've always worked in sales and marketing, and you have to repeat things a dozen times before somebody realizes that they have heard it. So it takes a while to get that market saturation. And I believe they are working from that premise. They think if they say this enough, that people will recognize this, and then people will start to parrot whatever it is. And sometimes it works for them, but not always. And right now, as we look at a period of time where there has been such unrest in our big cities, where there is uncertainty that is brought about by COVID, people are really beginning to take the information in and think it through on their own and come to their decisions and conclusions.
You know, it's interesting because we talk about the media, and if you are like myself, a political junkie, I for some reason it's a disease. I've been this way for 30 years. I'm watching the conventions, and for me to watch a convention this week, I had to watch it on C-SPAN because I didn't want the networks, including Fox, of all networks to continue to interrupt and tell me what their pundits were thinking. And so for those that were watching the convention this week and may have been watching on a network that wanted to interrupt the convention, they may have seen you, they may have not seen you. It depends upon which network it was. But you spoke on night 3 of the convention in an incredible, powerful speech about the kind of heroes that Democrats don't recognize. They choose not to recognize because they don't fit in their narratives. For maybe people who didn't see it, can you explain what that means?
Absolutely. One of the things that was really quite astounding to me with the Democrats' convention was that they never took out time to say thank you to our local law enforcement and our first responders and our military. They didn't say thank you to people that were protecting individuals and communities in these areas that have experienced vandalism and looting and riots. So I had been assigned the topic talking about heroes. And as I thought about it and began to write my remarks, I said, you know, the one thing that the Democrats are missing is that you can't cancel these heroes. This is a desire to serve people that lives in their soul. And try as hard as the Democrats may to cancel out law enforcement and the good that they do, or first responders, the good that they do, our medical researchers, our nurses that are working emergency rooms. These are individuals who God has endowed them with a desire to be of service to their fellow man. And that is something that the Democrats cannot cancel. They can close the doors of churches and leave open the liquor stores and the abortion clinics, but people are going to find a way to come together and do good and help their neighbors when they're in distress, and protect their communities when there is unrest, and to protect their country when their country is being attacked, because to them, they don't feel like their country owes them something. They feel like they owe something to both their country and their fellow man.
You said that leftists try to turn them into villains. They try to cancel them, but I'm here to tell you, paraphrasing your speech, that these heroes can't be canceled. We're seeing this playing out right now in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where the mob and the media have immediately played judge and jury before the facts are released regarding Jacob Blake. This guy is a sex offender. He was resisting arrest, who we now know, the reports are coming out, that he was reaching into his car for a knife. Meanwhile, the city has burned down, and the media seem to be somewhat hush-hush about the whole reaching into grabbing a knife incident, aren't they?
One of the things that is terribly disturbing to me is the reports that come around these horrific incidences and when we see them. And I really felt for Jacob Blake's mother when she was making her statement and basically saying, don't use my child as a reason to go vandalize or to burn down or to destroy. And I think what we want to do is be certain that we get all the facts. We want to make certain that there is equal treatment under the law and that justice is done.
I agree 100%. And my heart goes out to her and their family. It wasn't their fault. Their son was resisting arrest on this. But I just simply ask that the media wait before they start throwing out these accusations and inciting the mob. We have Senator Marsha Blackburn, author of her newest book, The Mind of a Conservative Woman, Seeking the Best for Family and Country. Can we talk a little bit about Senate politics?
Sure.
It just came out on Wednesday that on March the 17th, 2017, both Senator Burr and Senator Warner requested that the Carter Page FISA application be released. One or both asked James Wolfe, the former Senate Intel Panel security director, who was indicted for allegedly lying to the FBI, to leak it to the news. What is reported is that before, during, or after Senator Warner's review of the FISA application, James Wolfe leaked the FISA application content to his allied cohort in the media at BuzzFeed News. I think his name was Ali Watkins. And even though the FBI's Brian Dugan swears under oath that James Wolfe leaked the FISA application, he got a sweetheart plea deal after threatening to tell the truth. Now, not a single media outlet has ever admitted that James Wolfe leaked the FISA application under the direction of Senator Warner. Senator, a lot of Americans, at least those that are paying attention, view this whole sordid chapter where it's now proven that the Democrats tried to sabotage both the election of and then the presidency of Donald Trump with the false Russian collusion conspiracy, and are wondering if you and other senators approve of a slap on the wrist and what appears to be a two-tier justice system for the guilty senator, or will you follow the letter of the law and prosecute?
We have to follow the letter of the law. And of course, we can investigate and turn information over to DOJ. We can't prosecute anyone in the Senate. It's Senate Judiciary Committee. We have been working on the FISA issue. We've had Rod Rosenstein and Sally Yates in front of us. Sally Yates admitted to us she thought Rod Rosenstein went rogue. She said she would not have signed those FISA warrants knowing now, or if she had known then what she knows now. And to me, in my questioning, I asked her if whomever had been involved in providing false information, leaking information, if they should face accountability and prosecution, jail time, lose their job. And she agreed that they should. Now, it is going to be up to General Durham to issue those indictments. Of course, we have the Klainsmith guilty plea, and this is the first that we have seen. There are others, but I think it is absolutely imperative that we follow the letter of the law on this, because the American people cannot believe that the FBI and DOJ, and think about it like this, somebody cooked up this plot, then somebody gave the order to carry out the plot. Somebody did the dirty work. We need to know who did this and in what order and who all was involved, and how in the world did it end up in a January 5th Oval Office meeting where there was discussion on this. They knew that there was no Russia collusion. They knew this in the fall of 2016, but they could not believe that Donald Trump won the election. They thought that they had the skids greased for Hillary Clinton, and that didn't happen. So then they had to go mess up the administration and create this storyline of Russia collusion. So indeed, those that were involved in this need to face the penalties that go with the actions that they took.
I agree 100%, but we already know it's not as if we are seeing who instigated this. The telephone communication between Vice Chairman Senator Warner of the SSCI and journalist Ali Watkins over at BuzzFeed was captured. In fact, the FBI investigation centered around the FISA application, which was the center of the special counsel probe. But Mueller, who took ownership of this, he never forwarded it to a grand jury. Why did it not end up in a grand jury?
This is something that I think you will hear more from the Attorney General and from General Durham with his report. And we are beginning to hear from General Durham, and I'm sure over the next few weeks we'll hear more.
Do you have any indication that there are going to be some bombshells coming out?
I believe there will be, yes.
Good to know.
And I've appreciated that Chairman Graham has, as information has been declassified, he is making it public.
Well, we look forward to seeing that, absolutely, because there's a lot of people out there that are extremely frustrated by this. And of course, as you just alluded to earlier in our discussion, the media doesn't want to discuss this at all. So it's folks like you.
You've got people like me.
Yes.
I was vice chairman of the transition committee. And then we find out that they were spying on the transition. And I wrote, it was back in 2018, to say, am I on your list? Do you have information? Is there something that I should know?
Yeah.
And of course, heard nothing from the FBI.
Well, I could talk about that for another half an hour with you, but I want to get to my last question because I know you have a hard out here. As a member of the Senate, you have worked with Kamala Harris, who's been widely regarded as the most progressive senator, and that's in a Senate with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. The media, who skewered her at the end of her campaign, her failed presidential bid, where she garnered 0 delegates, by the way, they are now calling her, the New York Times, I think, actually quoting them, call her a pragmatic moderate. What is your perspective of the junior senator and now vice presidential candidate from California?
Oh my goodness. I give her the credit for having made history. She will forever be in our history books, and we acknowledge that, and we congratulate her for that. When it comes to her policies, according to the 2019 GovTrack ratings, she is the most liberal member of the U.S. Senate, and I am the most conservative member of the U.S. Senate. So we're 180 degrees apart, if you will. And what I do know is that her policies and what she supports, socialized medicine, Green New Deal, letting felons vote from prison, having open borders, health care for illegal aliens, those are not policies that the majority of Americans support. The majority of Americans do not want a vice president who is out marching with the mob in Washington, D.C.
Do you think Americans are open to her? Obviously, she was selected, as Joe Biden and the Democrats themselves said, because of her gender and her race. But beyond that, do you think they would welcome her based upon her policies?
Once they begin to look at her policies, no. You know, late-term abortion. She is for late-term abortion. She wanted to impeach Justice Kavanaugh. The list goes on. And that is those positions and those votes that she has taken are the reason that she has been ranked, not just supposed or talked about, but actually ranked as the most liberal member of the U.S. Senate.
Senator Marsha Blackburn from the great state of Tennessee. By the way, I just lost a friend from California to the great state of Tennessee. With your business climate and friendly environment there, you're getting a lot of migrants from blue states across the country, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We welcome them, and we want them to learn all about conservative values and why Tennessee is such a well-run state, and why we have a balanced budget and a good, solid rainy day fund. And we have a lot of good, strong, conservative women who step up and speak their mind. And that's why I was delighted to write a book that is going to be a great guidebook for them.
The Mind of a Conservative Woman, Seeking the Best for Family and Country. Find it everywhere books are sold. Thank you so much for taking the time, Senator. Greatly appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing more of you as the election continues over the next couple of months. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, Michael, what was this week like for you?
Well, first of all, I didn't think I was going to get attacked by Tom Shalhoub. It was horrible. I have to think that they're still cleaning the Diet Coke off the walls of the Oval Office, just from all the spit takes that Trump was doing when he would hear this craziness. Like, I just wish I could have been there with him to be his, like, dude, I know guy. That's what Trump needs. He needs someone to hang out with him to go like, dude, I know. It's crazy. It was like watching a crazy ex-girlfriend talk about you. Like, you only went out with this chick once, and now it was just night after night of like, he's not nice, he's mean.
Now you're talking about me.
It was crazy. When Barack was, and here's the other thing, how many takes do you think that Joe Biden speech took? Was it like 7, 8, 9 takes? where he's like, life, liberty, and the, the thing. They're like, cut, try it again.
Michael Loftus, he is the editor-in-chief at the Loftus Party, a show that you definitely need to be following online. And he is a frequent guest at Fox News. You've probably seen him a lot sitting on the panels with Greg Gutfeld. And he is a stand-up comedian that tours nationally. And Michael, welcome. How are you?
Oh, that's it? I'm good, man.
That's
How
it?
are you doing?
That's it? Well, no, I'm doing really, really well. So I got to ask you, before we get into all of the stories of the day, I got to just ask you point blank. I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy, your work, others' work as well. What's the universe like right now for stand-up comedians?
I will tell you. I'll make a long story short. Back in May, the improvisation, the clubs of improvs, they decided to open up in Dallas, Texas, at a club called the Improv in Addison. They invited me out to go. I went, I performed. We kept the audience size small. We were smart about it, masks, and it was great. And I'm like, here we go. Here we go. This is awesome. And then the state of Texas, I guess, kind of said, slow your roll. There was a comedian who I guess tested positive for COVID, and then that wasn't good. So it just everybody just slowed down a little bit. And then I'm out in New York right now. The guy who owns the Governor's Comedy Club, great comedy club, he was brilliant. He took a section of his parking lot, repaved it, had an outdoor club, seated like 50 people, social distancing, the whole nine. It was great. The health department came by and were like, that's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. And then Cuomo must have found out that people were happy because they shut it down. I was actually out last weekend protesting. You can do outdoor dining, but if someone starts telling jokes, no, you can't do it. It's off limits. It's completely random. It's horrible. And it's like they just want people to be miserable. Even if they ended all ticketed entertainment, even if it's outside, even if it's a handful of people, you can't do it. They want people to be miserable. That's my only takeaway.
I do a lot of economic reporting in another life that I currently am living as well. And New York right now is the epicenter of what Sam Zell, institutional investor, is calling the Detroitification of cities across the country. You having a mass exodus, rents are dramatically dropping right now. Talk to us about what's happening in New York City.
Well, I'm with your boy. Zell there.
Yeah.
It's as if they want to slowly but surely destroy Manhattan. And let's not forget, it wasn't doing great before the Wuhan, before the China virus. Like already, you have those little bodegas were going out of business. The little mom and pop restaurants were already struggling. I mean, I would drive into the city to do a spot at Fox News, and you see a lot of like places that were closed down. So it was already concerning. Then you throw the COVID-19 in the mix, and I don't know what New York's going to look like. There will always be a New York City. You know, Detroit is still around. It'll always be something, but I don't know what it will look like. I really don't. It's I got a bunch of buddies on the NYPD. They're all getting out. They're trying to retire faster than you can shake a stick at it. In fact, de Blasio, I think, tried to change the rule. Like, you can't apply for early retirement from the NYPD. So many people want to jump ship. It's horrible. It is not good. I'm fortunate. I'm out on Long Island, so I'm watching it from a safe distance. But
well, if you're in Long Island or Westchester or whatever it is, you guys are seeing real estate prices dramatically increase because everybody's coming out your way, right?
Oh yeah. It's I'm in a little section of Long Island. I really dig it out here. I'm writing on a show for Netflix, and we're about to go back into production. So
which
that's
show is
how
this?
I'm sorry?
Which show is this?
It's called The Crew, and it will debut in a couple months. We have 3 more episodes we need to finish up, and then Netflix likes to, they drop them all at the same time.
Yeah,
So we'll have 10 episodes, and then they'll all come out. So that's how I discovered Long Island. But yeah, I think everybody and their mother is moving out here. All these communities they love to make fun of now look really good. They look really good.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk a little politics, because you're always right there in the middle of it all, and your perspective, gives us. I'm one of those people that think that we just all take ourselves way too seriously, especially if you're, part of the Twitter mob or whatever it is. Everything is an outrage. You give us a relatively comedic view of the insanity that is our politics today. So just jump right in. Talk to me about the DNC and the RNC and comparisons.
Well, you have to look at, you really need to take a step back at everything and try to be an observer, right? An interested observer, because it's my country too. And I'm concerned. The media they overestimated themselves in 2016. They really thought it's the media elite. They lean to the left. They're not even pretending to be journalists. And they just thought, well, America will do what we tell them to do. I mean, Hillary Clinton. And then America voted in Donald Trump. And now in 2020, you are seeing, and this is the great byproduct of the Trump administration, is that the masks are off. Everybody is showing you who they really are. And we are watching, like when a rabbit gets cornered, it just is like, screw it. And it starts to fight, any cornered animal. That's the media right now. They are going just all in on Joe Biden. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. If I was like from Australia watching it from a distance, I'd be cracking up on American. It's so, they had another CNN reporter the other night in Wisconsin talking about it's a mostly peaceful protest. Again, fire in the background. That's the second time they've done it. You had Ari Velshi out in Minneapolis, mostly peaceful. Everything's on fire. So they really think that they're smarter than the American people. They really do. These journalists who these wonderfully educated people, and they have no real world experience, and their degrees are horrible, and they're never held accountable for their mistakes. And we're at the point now, if we make the mistake and vote in Joe Biden, there's no going back. There's no going back. This is the tipping point. We're at the tipping point.
Yeah, I definitely believe we're at a fork in the road. And you're talking about the media, specifically CNN. And Joe Lockhart, who was, I think he was Clinton's press secretary, but he is now a CNN analyst. As Nick Sandman, the teenager that apparently won a huge, massive settlement, right, against CNN. So as he was talking, CNN political analyst Joe Lockhart essentially lashed out at him. And this guy won a multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit, at least CNN settled. Is this cognitive dissonance? Do they just not get it? And do you think there's going to be any ramifications for them?
No, there'll be zero ramifications. I think Lockhart was like, I have to watch the convention, the Republican convention, because of the nature of his job. But I don't have to watch this snot-nosed kid from Kentucky.
That was it.
That's just like, okay, so you hate that kid. You hate that kid. Just admit it. And there's no even pretense of bias anymore. There's the reality they want, and then there's real reality, and they're just so far apart, and they just refuse to admit it. Finally, Joe Biden, after what, 90 consecutive nights of rioting and looting and violence in Portland, 90. That's 3 months. He finally today said, you know what, these protests are good, but violence is bad. Finally, he said it because they found out it wasn't testing well. So he doesn't give a rat's bahunkus about the people whose businesses have been burned, the people who have been hurt, the people who have been killed, all the horrible things. It's like, oh, it didn't test well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is. And you saw the other night, you saw Don Lemon talking with Fredo about the whole thing. It's like, okay, well, the polls aren't supporting this now, so Joe Biden needs to come out and, is he basically Biden given permission now to the media to actually start reporting the news?
I don't think so. I think the media I think the media told Biden. I think the media did the research and then got to Joe Biden and said, hey, guy, you got to say something about this. So Joe Biden, okay. Which camera is it on? And then like when the right talks about Biden being a puppet for the far left, that's the best metaphor ever. That's the best. He's been a professional politician for like 48 years.
Yeah.
He is the quintessential. He'll say anything to get elected.
One of the things that the media is very much focused on right now, outside of the political news, which definitely is trying to make this a mainstream story, but if you turn on ESPN or any of the just the basic mainstream channels, it's all about Jacob Blake. And as you know, this week the NBA canceled their games, their playoff games. Who knew there were NBA playoff games going on? To protest right now.
Exactly.
Jacob Blake, okay, and this is not any kind of biased reporting. This is fact. He is a registered sex offender who sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl. He refused to be arrested even after being tased. He went to his car, and now the reports that came out in the last couple of days is that he was reaching for a knife. And I haven't heard this being reported on CBS, NBC, CNN, but this is apparently what is now coming out. But however, LeBron James and the rest of the NBA are walking away. They're making this about race. And we're seeing Kenosha, Wisconsin blow up because of the riots and the looting because of this. Does this news penetrate the mainstream news? And do people learn about this? Or is this all about just another George Floyd?
It's going to be another George Floyd. It's just another name that people can put up on the long list of outrageous. You still got people saying hands up, don't shoot. That's a chant. Hands up, don't shoot. It never happened. But it gets people motivated. So forget about the truth. Let's get people going. Let's get people riled up. And that's what this is sadly all about. I mean, I think you would be very hard pressed to find an American if there was legitimate proof that white police officers were just rolling around in neighborhoods randomly killing black people, the country would stop. But like there's always like an element beneath it. It's like, okay, this guy was attacking the police officer. Okay, this guy was resisting arrest. Okay, this guy was reaching for a weapon. And like they talk about the cops need more training. Society needs more training. It's like, put yourself in the shoes of the policeman. You're grabbing onto a kid. You already have his background. You know he's a bad hombre. You're like, hey, stand right here. And he turns his back to you and just dismisses you like you're not there. Then he's reaching in his car for Lord knows what. He could have pulled out a freaking Glock. Yeah. Those cops, it's going to be a justifiable shooting, and then there'll be another wave of violence after that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is. And if you watch Stephen A. Smith, not Miller, Stephen A. Smith on ESPN, who I respect, I think he's actually kind of a fair-minded arbiter of what's going on. But he made this all about race, and he carries a tremendous amount of weight in sports. And so he justified it by suggesting that when he was pulled over with his little 8-year-old girl some time back, 3 squad cars pulled up, and the only reason he was let go was because one of the police officers recognized who he was, and that if he didn't know who he was, he would have been thrown against the ground in front of his 8-year-old little girl for doing nothing but what he calls DWB, driving while black. So this is obviously generating a tremendous amount of anger, emotion, and the reaction that we're seeing is coming from the media on this. In essence, how do we have a discussion? Because this is what you do at the Loftus party and elsewhere. How do we have a discussion before even all of the facts come out?
First of all, you got to tell everybody to hold their breath. Like we were just talking about Nick Sandman. Boy, they vilified that guy. They vilified that guy. Listen, there's a reason we don't have a justice system that's based on mobs. You always have to, like, and this is my rule of thumb for my life. One of my many little rules. One is don't eat ice cream after midnight. The other one is when you find yourself part of a mob, take a step back. Take a step back. And that's what I would say to everybody in the Black Lives Matter. Every protester, everybody out there, okay, you're out here, you're part of a mob, you're about to do some violence, why are you doing this? And then you have to have a real discussion about, what are the facts? Like, you can call it racism, but like, what percentage of the population are African Americans, and what part of the crime? Listen, I don't think these police are going to these neighborhoods just willy-nilly. They're called by black people who live in these neighborhoods, and Latinos and poor white people. They're called to these bad neighborhoods because nobody likes crime. So the cops go to where the crime is. I'm sorry if the percentages don't work out, but stop committing crimes. That'd be a good start. Be a better human being, and don't resist arrest. This is not hard.
Yeah, don't give the cops a reason to arrest you in the first place.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the politics of this, because we're right in the middle of it. Last week was the DNC. This week is the RNC. And we are going to be going straight from this. The attention is going to be focused to debates. And just this morning, Nancy Pelosi came out, and we've been predicting this now for a couple of months here at Whiskey Politics, and I know elsewhere people have been saying the same thing, that the left are trying to find a way to in essence, have Joe Biden stand there on the dais with Donald Trump. And we know why, as a puppet, as a senile man that should be sitting in his rocking chair looking at the lake at this point in life, not running for president, we know that he's not going to be at that level. Now, Nancy Pelosi is suggesting, as many at the New York Times have, that they don't want to be on stage with a racist. So they're putting it back on Trump. Talk to me a little bit about the reaction Americans will have if the Democrats pull out of the debates.
If the Americans pull out of the debates, any right-leaning website, any right-leaning, we have to circle the wagons. We have to circle the wagons. And the reason, and just amplify the truth. He's not showing up because he can't. This isn't about high moral ground. He can't. Yeah. And the fact that he cannot participate in a debate means he cannot participate in being leader of the free world. He's afraid. They're terrified of what's going to happen. And anybody who's watching this show, all your listeners, all your viewers should be terrified of, like, good Lord, can you imagine? Even though Biden would only be there for like a day and a half before he tapped out as commander, right? He'd be like, my doctors say I gotta take a rest. My doctors tell me, here's President Kamala Harris. Like, you don't want that guy answering the phone at 3 a.m. You don't want Joe Biden. He can't do it. He's just not up to it.
Right. And how is he going to address leaders on the world stage and negotiate with them? And that's a truly scary proposition. And we know that he is a marionette strings. He's a puppet, right? And so the question is, who's pulling those strings? And I think that the RNC this week has made a very compelling case that it isn't about Joe Biden. He's just a Trojan horse for the far left that are going to come in and implement all their crazy socialist policies, right?
Yes. However, here's the problem that you got back with the media. You know what baking it in means, right?
Yep.
When you have a catchphrase, you have a belief that you want someone to have, so you just repeat it over and over and over and over again. And that's what the media did for the past 2.5, 3 years with Trump-Russia collusion. Trump-Russia collusion.
Goebbels 101. Repeat a lie often enough, so it's true.
And that is where we are. And then if you look at, and the media knows the media knows that they'll lose the debate of ideas. That's another reason to have Joe Biden not show up. He'll lose. He has no ideas. Whatever. Amazon, the streaming service, they made all 4 nights of the DNC free. If you had Amazon TV, boy, you could watch all 4 nights uninterrupted live streaming. They're not giving any airtime to the RNC.
Really?
Yeah, they just ignored it. It does not exist. It's not happening. If you watch Amazon, it never happened. So that's a terrifying notion.
Holy
right
cow.
there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so those people, I know on night one, no coverage on Amazon. So there will be no battle of ideas. It will just be one-sided.
I've been watching it on C-SPAN because even Fox News are interrupting some of the speakers that I want to hear and see. I don't care about people's opinions while I'm watching people speak. I'm sorry, Juan Williams or whoever it may be, even if I agree with their opinions, save it. I don't. And here's another thing, and going into a couple of last questions here for you, Michael. I don't like the media telling me how to think. Have we gotten to the point where people are watching the media to be told what to think and only having an opinion after they see people that they agree with telling them what they just saw?
That's what the media is. And if you look, and this goes back to before Ronald Reagan. Listen, Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, any popular right wing out, it wasn't born just willy-nilly. It was born out of a vacuum. You can go back to you take a Republican president, and the headline from the New York Times will be like, Reagan struggles to get his message through. Yeah. Reagan lashes out. It's always that there's always these little jabs that work on people, and hopefully we're watching the end of it. I really implore everyone to spread the word and support it. It's the new media. The new media. It's shows like this one. It's websites like the loftusparty.com. There's a kid named Tim Pool who's doing great stuff.
I follow him. It's fantastic.
Cheryl Atkinson is doing great work, and they can't stand her. And like, look at Tucker Carlson's ratings. There's just, we got to support everyone.
Tucker is in his prime right now. Whoever his writers are doing a phenomenal job. And I'll catch his opening monologue usually on YouTube later that night because he really is nailing it and saying what most of us are feeling. He's being very articulate about it. Last question for you, Michael.
Okay.
You talked about this. I want to get your opinion for our viewers about what the media are seemingly celebrating. I know the Democrats are, and that is, quote unquote, Republicans for Biden. Republicans for Biden. All right, jump in.
Dude, I just did a video about this on my YouTube channel, The Loftus Party, and it is hilarious because it's like a who's who of bitter old rhinos that have an axe to grind. And like the headline, you're supposed to read that headline like, whoa, Republicans for Biden. Wow, this shakes my whole belief system. Then you see who's on there and you're like, Anthony Scaramucci. Really? Really? That highly principled Republican is for Biden? You got Cindy McCain. Really? Really? The McCain family. They don't like Trump. I'm shocked. They turned John McCain's funeral into an Obama rally. The guy's body wasn't even cold. And then Mitt Romney, the ultimate Grecian formula rhino, and then you think about like Scaramucci worked for Trump. He got fired. Mitt Romney. I love that picture.
After 2 days, right?
Yes. Trump was like, wow, this guy sucks. Boink. And then you got Mitt Romney literally at the dinner table with Trump, like waiting, please, can I be Secretary of State, please? And Trump's like, no, you can't. And so it's just a list of angry, bitter. It's like those dudes in the Lincoln Project. We're the Lincoln Project.
Yeah.
And I know One of those dudes tried to get a job in the Trump administration and said no. And those guys have like legitimate ties to Russia. It's the craziest thing ever. I love it when people bring that up.
Yeah. Rick Wilson is one of the biggest grifters out there right now. And there's a lot of reports that, they're showing 85 to 90% of their revenue raised, the funds that they've raised, have actually gone to paying themselves.
Yeah.
So it's really bad. But no, I'm seriously, I will take a look at what the mooch has to think before I make my educated political opinion. Right. So anyway, they are being celebrated, and we are seeing, that they've raised money. So you're seeing these awful commercials that are out there. But I thought your perspective on this was right on spot. Michael Loftus, tell everybody where they can find you, your show, online, and everywhere else.
The only thing you need to know, ladies and gentlemen, is the Loftus Party and theloftusparty.com. Boom, you're good to go. I am the tequila. I'm the easy drinking tequila. If you're the whiskey, I'm the tequila.
I've been on a panel with you. I think we were live streaming the Democrat debates last summer together.
So much fun.
You are hilarious, and everybody should check out your channel. And we'll have all of your places people can find you on social media right below here you on the Chiron. So greatly appreciate you taking the time, Michael. Let's not let it go so long again.
Anytime. We got to do this more often, buddy.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going to get back there. I'm going to get back there and start playing that bass. I'm going to start slapping that big bass like a stray cat.
Yeah, we can do the Snoopy dance.
There you go.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it, Michael. Take care.
All right. See you later, man.
Thanks, Michael. Everybody check out The Loftus Party. It is a great program, great podcast to listen to or watch. And if you enjoyed our interview, I think it was about a month ago, with Stacey Lennox. She is a featured regular with Michael over at The Loftus Party, and I know you will enjoy them both. And again, very special thanks to Senator Marsha Blackburn. And Marsha, go get him. I felt like after we spoke that, you know what, there's some hope that some of those folks are going to be held accountable for that Russian collusion narrative, where half the country still believes that there's actually Russian collusion with this presidency and Putin. Anyway, thank you so much. An incredible week here with the Republican National Convention. And we're sending our thoughts and prayers to everybody down in the Gulf Coast who are cleaning up after a massive storm, a hurricane that just went through. Stay healthy, everybody, and greatly appreciate you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning in. Again, please find us over at theindependent.io, the Range Broadcasting Network. Please subscribe to us on YouTube and comment and like our channel, as well as all of our podcast applications, Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating and a review that helps the algorithms find us, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and the Ricochet Audio Network. We'll be back again next week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you. Cheers.